Here for another day of Chicago Live. We so appreciate you being here each and every day from 1 to 4 p.m. I'm Anita Blanton, your host, and I will be with you through it all. So let me kind of tell you about a few of the things that we have lined up for you in this first hour together. As always, we have a lot to talk about in the time we'll have. It's almost time for the biggest game the Bears have played in years, if we're keeping it very real here. So are you nervous? Do you believe that we can pull out this win? I guess that's kind of where it all starts, right? That's the belief that we can do this. We are your home of the Bears here at Fox Chicago. And so really, my advice would be turn on Fox Chicago in the morning and just let it ride all day. Yeah, the Bears game is at night, 7:10 to be exact for kickoff. But our pregame coverage is actually going to happen early on in the day because here on Fox Chicago, there's a doubleheader. So for those of us who just love this game called football, you can really sit back and just enjoy the full day of football. And it's my hope, my belief, that we will be so deliriously happy by the time the day ends for post-game coverage that we'll be, full of football, coming off of a Bears win, and post-game coverage will just kind of highlight all things great that happened in the day. That's my hope. That's my belief. Our sports producer, though, has graciously agreed in the midst of their crazy schedule, covering it all, to come up here to Studio 32 and chat with me about it coming up in just a bit so we can know a little bit about what we can expect that's coming from Hallis Hall on what's essentially an off day for them getting ready for tomorrow's game. Thursday usually kind of is their Friday for a Saturday game. That's going to be coming up a little later on in this hour. Right around 1:15, we're going to bring in, speaking of people with a busy schedule, we're going to bring in a reporter from Minneapolis with our sister station in Minnesota, and we're going to talk a little bit about what's been going on there. This has been an incredibly chaotic week for them. We've actually caught up with them multiple times during the week because at the start of the week, we were asking them to join us as the Minnesota governor, Tim Walz, was stepping out of the race for re-election. And now at the end of the week, we're catching up with them because of the death of a woman at the hands of federal agents there, trying to kind of see how things are feeling, the tension that's in the air at this point in time, and the outlook for the next few days. I mean, it's still a rough go for them in that area as people still have a lot of questions. There's still a lot to sift through there. Varying stories as to what even happened in that area that led up to the death of 37-year-old Nicole Good. So we'll be talking with Rob Olson coming up around 1:15 about what they are covering in Minneapolis. But right now, there's a song that says, have you seen her? Tell me, have you seen her? I really don't know if this is a male or a female that we're going to be talking about in this, but there is video of a coyote in Humboldt Park that was originally posted on Reddit, and it's now trending. And it's always fascinating, really, to see a glimpse in the city of what was really here before all of the buildings and the people densely populated in this area. Chris Anker, a senior wildlife biologist with the Forest Preserve District of Cook County, is joining me now. And I think this really is amazing whenever we get a little glimpse of urban coyotes.
It's pretty special.
Yeah, you're a leader of the Urban Coyote Research Project. We don't get videos like these every day, but how common are urban coyotes?
So we're in year 26 of the urban coyote study being conducted with Ohio State University, Max McGraw, and the Cook County Forest Preserve and Animal Control. And what we have found is that coyotes are found everywhere. They're within the heart of the city. There's a family group that lives at Jackson Park. There's a family group that lives at Millennium Park. There's a family group that lives up by Lincoln Park. So no matter where you live in the Chicagoland area, even in the heart of the city, you are within the territory of a family group of coyotes.
Oh, wow. And, when we think about that, the fact that there are little pockets of them all around, I don't want it to disturb their habitat, but does it mean that they're healthy if they're coming out and about where we're seeing them?
So their behavior is very, very plastic. They learn very quickly that they have little to nothing to fear from humans. They're not hunted, they're not trapped. They're extremely intelligent animals, so they learn to live amongst us. They learn to avoid us for the most part, but they really don't fear us to any extent because they know we're not a direct threat. So it's not that uncommon, particularly this time of year. We're about 1 month away from peak breeding season for coyotes in the Chicagoland area. So they're becoming much more active right now, particularly the males. They're patrolling the boundaries of their territories, and they're becoming more visible.
Oh, okay. So maybe it was a male that we were seeing in the video. Aha. All right. Now, what goes through your mind when you see these videos pop up and get sent all over the place?
I like the fact that people are viewing them, and I hope that they appreciate the biodiversity that lives in our area. My only fear is that people not start feeding them. The only documented cases of coyote attacks on humans have all occurred in places where people were actively feeding them.
Ooh.
So I'm always very cautious when I see videos like this that it's not due to the fact that people are beginning to feed them. So if folks take one thing away from this interview, it is please do not feed coyotes.
So what should people do if we see them?
Enjoy it.
From a distance?
Absolutely.
How do they survive if we're not feeding them? And I mean, I feel like we had a video of a group in Millennium Park not too long ago, maybe a year or two ago, and it looked like maybe they were searching for rats or something. Would that be right?
The vast majority of their diet in the Chicagoland area are things like rats, rabbits, mice, meadow voles, squirrels. Tree squirrels are very good at catching squirrels that come down to your bird feeder or something like that. They learn very quickly where their food is concentrated. So if you cast a lot of bird food on the ground, you're attracting not just birds, but mice and rats and squirrels and things like that, and the coyotes will come and feed on those animals that are attracted to your bird feed.
Tell me more about your research project and some of the things that you've learned.
So it's pretty incredible in that it's been 26 years that we've been able to string this project along. Dr. Stan Garrett from Ohio State, Max McGraw is the principal investigator, and the Forest Preserve District of Cook County is the co-establisher of this project with backing from Cook County Animal and Rabies Control. And we've handled over 1,600 coyotes now in 26 years, which is pretty dramatic. The types of questions you can ask after that period of time handling so many animals are very, very interesting. You can start looking at not just home ranges and longevity and distribution, but you can start asking questions, genetic questions. So we have a genetic profile on the vast majority of those animals that we've handled. And you can start asking questions like, is boldness heritable? Is transient movement behavior heritable? Things that you would have never been able to even consider if you had a very short-term project. The biggest thing that I took away from it is the fact that no matter where you live in the Chicagoland area, you are in the territory of a family group of coyotes. And we had no idea of that when we started this project back in 2000.
Wow. So as you've been doing this research, what are some of the trends that you find?
So at this point, the coyote population is fairly stable. It's not, except very locally, it's not greatly increasing or greatly decreasing. All the available habitat is occupied. We've learned that animals can move great distances. We have animals that have gone into Michigan, central Indiana, central Illinois. Animals have gone up towards Madison, Green Bay, west all the way out to the Mississippi River. And the significance of that is movement of disease. So the foundation of all of our work here at the Wildlife Division of the Forest Preserve District is zoonotic disease surveillance. So those diseases that start in animals and end up in humans. So we're very interested in animals that can move disease across the landscape. So things like West Nile virus, rabies, Ehrlichia, SARS-CoV, things like that. Things that can build up or be harbored in wildlife and then eventually end up in us or our companion animals.
Wow, wow. What do you think the future looks like for them?
I think they're here to stay. They're not going anywhere. They're very, very adept at being able to figure out whether they are in a good situation or a bad situation, and they act accordingly. If things get a lack of food or too much pressure put on them, either by other animals or by humans, they'll move along. So I don't think that they're going to go anywhere. It's one of the most persecuted animals in North America. They tried for a century to exterminate them out west. They were completely unsuccessful at that. In a place like the Chicagoland area where there's very limited harvest or pressure from humans, they are here to stay.
When we have these daytime sightings of them, or sightings before it's late at night at least, does that suggest rabies, or what are the things that suggest rabies?
So rabies is a very, very rare occurrence in the Chicagoland area. Typically it occurs in bats. We see rabies in bats every year, but we have not had rabies in coyotes or fox in 60 or 70 years. It's not that they cannot contract it, because they can. It's just not endemic to this part of the country in coyotes. If a coyote were to get rabies, one of two things would happen. It would either be referred to as dumb rabies. It would go find a quiet place and crawl up in a ball and die, or it would get furious rabies. And this is the archetype of what you would traditionally talk about as rabies, where they would run around growling and barking and foaming at the mouth and attacking people. And nothing like that has ever occurred in this area for a very, very, very long time.
I feel like that was always like, and maybe that's one of those like urban legend or myths that's out there, is like, if you see them, if you see a coyote, then it must have rabies because it's out during the day. What are some other like myths or misnomers about them that you commonly see people repeat or think?
A lot of people will see a coyote and think that it's a timber wolf. And a timber wolf is a completely different animal than a coyote. A coyote in our area are generally 30 to 35 pounds, 40 pounds max. A timber wolf is an 80 to 125 pound animal. Coyotes are designed to feed on rabbits and mice and squirrels. Timber wolves are designed to feed on beavers and white-tailed deer and things like that. So it's a completely different animal. But it's very common for people to think that because they see, particularly this time of year, the coyotes are in their winter fur, so they have the very long guard hairs right now. And if you get a really beautiful big male specimen in your backyard, it'll look like it's the size of your 80 or 90 pound German Shepherd. So people assume that animal, weighs 80 or 90 pounds. But if you were to dip it in the lake, it would turn into a scrawny little 30-pound animal. I think a lot of people are unable to discern between a wolf and a coyote.
Mm-hmm. How beneficial are they to us?
Well, I think that it's an indicator that there's a lot of food for them, because they survive and they reproduce on a yearly basis. Right down at Millennium Park, Navy Pier, right amongst us. So the fact that they can survive, and we all share the same environment, we all share the same world. So most people think the more biodiversity that you have, it's an indicator of an improving environment. I think of, I'm aging myself now, but I think of how the water and the air quality was back in the 60s and 70s when I was a child.
Mm-hmm.
And it's vastly improved from what it was when I grew up. It's not even close.
Wow. Sharing is caring. So I'm glad that if we're seeing them out, just stay back from them, and enjoy, like you said, enjoy being able to see the diversity of our area. Thank you so much for taking some time to chat with me today. Appreciate it.
Okay, you have a wonderful day.
All right, you too. Have a good weekend. It's 1:15, everyone. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back. Hopefully, we'll be able to bring in a reporter from Minnesota if they're able to make a little time for us as well. Welcome back, everyone. It's 1:18 right now, and what a week it has been for people in Minnesota and specifically in Minneapolis. We have been continuing to report on major developments that have happened there throughout the week, a lot of breaking news, and I'm seeing just today that a Minnesota prosecutor, the Hennepin County attorney, is asking for the public to send in videos now to share with them their last moments of seeing Renee Nicole Good, who was killed at the hands of federal agents there, that this prosecutor wants those sent directly to her office, even though right now there's no type of investigation that's including both Minneapolis DA or the Minneapolis prosecutor and then also the Trump administration. It's kind of separate at this point in time. So let's go ahead and bring in Minneapolis reporter Rob Olson, who's been working this story. Thank you so much for your time. I know you are super busy. You and your whole team are super busy right now. So we really appreciate this. Get us up to speed on how things have been today, even in your area.
Well, we're still monitoring. I am not far from, but I'm not at the Whipple Federal Building right now. I was out there all day yesterday. There continue to be protests there. That is where ICE has been based at that federal building on the north side of the airport, and drew a pretty big crowd yesterday. It dwindled later in the day, but continued on as people came and went, along with federal agents, with occasional clashes. And we're seeing that again today, where there's been some occasional use of chemical irritants. Typically, what we saw yesterday was if cars were coming and going and the federal agents moved out into the street to, clear a path for those cars and they would get closer, then that would be when maybe something, would happen in terms of too close a contact. Yesterday, what we saw too is on occasion where somebody would throw something at a federal agent, and that got a pretty forceful response where they would take people down and they would detain them. Today, we saw this yesterday, and we're seeing this again today as I'm kind of monitoring a live feed from there, is that there are some pro-ICE protesters or counter-protesters, if you want to call them that, there that are, with, a public address system or microphones loudly voicing their support for ICE and sort of then antagonizing the protesters back. And that is creating a pretty tense situation over there again today as well between the, those who oppose ICE and are very loudly and angrily, they're insulting them, telling them to leave, etc., and these pro-ICE supporters who are very loudly yelling at and antagonizing the protesters. So keeping an eye on to see if where that goes today. Beyond that, just kind of keeping the ear on the ground here too for any other, nothing planned at this point, but that I've seen anyway. But any other situations that may come up is what continues to be, tension here, certainly in the Twin Cities.
Yeah. Do you have any indication? Have you heard anything about like outside protesters, or does it seem like these are mainly people, regardless of what side of things they sit on, who are Minneapolis residents?
That is hard to say. I know that one of these people that I see in the crowd there today, who was there yesterday, did make some mention of driving or traveling 10 hours to be here.
Wow.
So that would be somebody who came from out of state. Can't verify that. We don't know. That is just a comment that he made that I'd overheard. Beyond that, it's certainly possible. We've seen that before. I think other cities have seen that before, where the crowds it draws, whether whether they're opposing ICE's presence or supporting them, that you do see people that travel in from out of the city or out of state, but it's hard to say just how many. Most of the people that I've talked to yesterday were all from the area that just felt the need to turn up and feel like they were making their voices heard.
And do you have concerns about the weekend? I mean, regardless of how tense or how high emotions are, people were going to work during the week. Do you have concerns about what's going to happen over the weekend when people are off?
Well, always concerns too, because you never know when, one of these gatherings could, again, where that tension just gets beyond the breaking point. So, I think this is going to continue for a while. And, this isn't like widespread in terms of large areas. It's the same thing that we've seen in other cities where these are confined, like this particular protest at the federal building on the other side of the airport, is just in a street. You're talking about maybe 100 yards of street total. And then yesterday, as it went on and it more focused into, maybe 25 yards of that street, an area right in front of kind of a gated entrance to the parking lot of that building. It went from a few hundred people down to, by the time I left, it was probably less than 50 people there. But you just never know as these things, flux, what kind of, what it could turn into. So there's always going to be concerns. And certainly, we're hearing about more, ICE operations throughout the metro area. And, I think that's going to continue for a while, just as it is in your city and other cities. And again, the concerns are, what kind of situation does that turn into if people respond and show up to either observe or to antagonize? You never know when some of those can boil over.
And when you speak of other cities, ours included, like you mentioned, given what happened in Portland last night, speaking to people today who are still in the midst of a situation there in Minneapolis, how are they taking in the fact that, there's a whole nother shooting involving federal agents as they're still processing what happened in their own city?
Well, I have not since I have not been directly at that protest site today. I can't speak directly for how people are feeling about that. Just the general, certainly the vibe that you get from reading social media posts, et cetera, is that people are concerned that you could see more of these occasions where things escalate to a point, that. And we've seen that certainly in other situations where there's chemical irritants and et cetera, and things get out of hand. But certainly this, there's concern here about where does this go? Where does it end? What does it lead to in terms of that rising tension?
Yeah, and your National Guard has been put on alert. And that's a part of why I was asking, about how things are going in terms of the protest and what the expectation is come the weekend, because they haven't been activated to actually mobilize, right?
Yeah, no, there's been a small activation, but not a mobilization. I mean, they were put on a warn notice, and then there was a small activation to make them even at a better state of readiness, but no mobilization. I think just being ready to respond in case, and the way the National Guard, the way they were used in 2020, and I think the intent now is if a local police department needs assistance in terms of a public safety situation, then they would ask for it. So I think that's just, in case of something that does exceed the ability of a local police department to try to, whether it's maintain order or keep public safety in check, to make sure things don't get into a riot type situation. I think that's really what they're standing by for, in case there's another department that feels like they need extra help.
You mentioned 2020. Does everyone have deja vu to some extent with this now happening?
Certainly a lot of us make those sort of comparisons, that's what you do not want to see this become. That escalated pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. And I think for a lot of us too, that have seen other responses, other, gatherings and protests that have turned violent or turned destructive. What surprised a lot of us that time was that, you saw this elevate, and then you thought, okay, usually in prior situations, it kind of reaches a peak and then goes back down. And this one, day after day, for several days, kept rising up and to points that a lot of us had never experienced anything like that before. And so there's certainly the deja vu in terms of we don't want to see that happen again. And I think that's why the Guard is on standby the way they are now already, from the lessons from that year. So there is that sense. At this point, it doesn't feel like it's going to go that way. But certainly the tensions and the protests will continue. When we were in the peak of Operation Midway Blitz here in the area, the Trump administration's immigration targeted efforts here in Chicagoland, August, September, October, and when we were having these protests and there were questions on a regular basis as to the motive, the force that was used during that period of time. There's still lawsuits that are still playing out in our area. Let's talk a little bit about the Hennepin County attorney asking for people to send her video now of use of force videos in this area pertaining to the fatal shooting, because there is this sense that Minnesota lawmakers are not allowed to be a part of the investigation into this incident in general right now, right? Yeah, and what that is that's the State Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. They are the state investigating agency. And they, initially were going to be working on this investigation in partnership with the FBI until the FBI said then, no, we are not going to share investigative data with you. The BCA could certainly continue to investigate, but they wouldn't have access to all the investigative data and feel like, and what the head of the BCA had said is that we don't feel like we can do a complete investigation without that. And that would be obviously interviews with the federal agents who are there, any videos that they have, et cetera. What the Hennepin County attorney is interested in doing is she's made it clear that she does want to do an investigation herself, despite the lack of federal cooperation there with the investigative information. And so I think, that is just a way to continue moving ahead with something, and see where that leads, and where that can lead without that cooperation and sharing of information and video with the federal agencies and the FBI here. So that's, I wouldn't be surprised if the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension at some point decides that they're going to continue on with their own investigation. But again, they're concerned that they feel like they won't be able to do a complete job without the information that the federal investigators have. So I think we'll see this continue to move forward in those steps, certainly from the Hennepin County attorney, with whatever they can gather, and see if they can get it to a point where they feel like they can file charges.
Give me your overall on the week that has been for Minnesota. I kind of, as I was getting ready to come to you, just preface the fact that at the beginning of the week, we were talking about Governor Walz stepping out of the race for re-election, and now here we are at the end of the week. Tell me how that's been for you all covering it there in your city.
Well, boy, how do you put that in perspective? And I will tell you this: I wasn't here at the beginning of the week. I was on a golf vacation with my family after Christmas. So I was actually in Phoenix Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, when the governor made his announcement that he would drop out of the race. And then when this incident happened on Wednesday, I was getting ready to fly back here to Minnesota. So
wow.
Certainly my perspective on the week is even more different than my coworkers who were covering this all week long. Of course, I was staying very tuned in to everything that was going on. Certainly, a big change in tone in terms of talking about Governor Walz stepping down from his re-election campaign for a third term, in light of all the fraud concerns in the state, where he said that he felt like he wouldn't be able to give the campaign attention while giving these other issues all the attention that they deserve. And that will continue. I mean, those fraud allegations and investigations certainly are not going to go away in the wake of this, but it has been an abrupt change of attention for a lot of people into what will continue on here in terms of this federal presence. Part of the federal presence too is that they are devoting some attention to trying to investigate some of the suspected fraud in the state. So, they're here on the ground doing that in conjunction with immigration enforcement.
When I spoke of, well, let me roll back first and foremost and say, welcome back from vacation. What a way to be thrust into everything. Your rest is like gone in 24 hours. But when I was speaking of, like motives being questioned in our area, obviously we have a governor in Illinois who, people look at as a possibility for the next election cycle for president, even though he is running for re-election for governor. Do you think, and is it the feeling in the state right now, the city right now, that maybe you all are being targeted because of Tim Walz?
Well, that's certainly an allegation that he has made, is that, when you look at the areas that have seen the biggest increases in enforcement, that they are all states with Democratic governors. Certainly in this case, Governor Walz, during the campaign when he was on the ticket with Kamala Harris last year, and even prior to that as a surrogate, made a lot of very, very pointed criticisms of President Trump. And so he has certainly expressed that he feels like this is because of him, that the state is in the crosshairs. And so that's where also he felt like it was best. What he said is that it was best for Minnesota if he doesn't then campaign for a third term, because he feels like a lot of what we're seeing is due to his position as governor here. So there is that feeling, yes, certainly coming from his administration.
Okay. Do we know about any events that are going to be happening like this evening, or even to the start of next week, that we should even be kind of clued into, that you all have on your calendar as well, that'll be happening there as a result of what's happened this week?
And to be honest with you, for the last few hours, I've been focused on some other things. I haven't looked at the updated schedule and calendar and what's in our queue for what we're aware of happening. I'm sure there will be. I can't tell you with any authority here what's planned, but I know that there will continue to be gatherings. But I can't tell you exactly what is on the schedule right now.
Well, Rob, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And it is such a hard thing, in news, to step away. It's important for us to step away, to take vacation. These are the things that these are our nightmares that we step away, and immediately all of this happens in the city where we work. But thank you so much for stepping right back in and helping us out here in Chicago as well.
No, you're welcome.
Okay. All right. You have a good weekend. 1:36, and we're certainly hoping that things are calm and quiet there in Minneapolis over the weekend, but we'll be covering it either way. Really praying for the people there as they grapple with all of the things that have happened in their city and in their state over the last few days. Let's take a quick break. It'll be about 2 minutes, and then we'll be right back and we'll proceed on. Welcome back. It's just about 1:40, everyone, and we have one of the most important games for the Bears coming up in a little over 24 hours. And so we're so happy that our own Chris K came up from our sports team to talk a little bit about what we can expect, what you're hearing. We're believing that a Bears win is on the way. Do you feel that is in short order?
It really depends on who you ask. It really is that much of a toss-up at this point. It's not often that you see a home team as a 1.5 point underdog, but the Bears are to the Packers. And I think it's because the Packers had a week to rest. They got some guys back, and they're looking a little bit healthier, but the Bears get some key guys back too.
Yeah. Talk about that, because the guys that we're getting back have been out for a while.
Yeah, Rome Odunze's been listed the last 5 games, and in that absence, I guess the glass half full, the bright spot of this is Colson Loveland has come on with like 16 catches.
He's been great.
Yeah, like 185 yards.
Rookie
in the last
on fire.
2 games. Like, I mean, when they took him 10th overall, a lot of people were like, really? Like, that kid?
Yeah.
But hey, look, he's silenced a lot of doubters. He's finished the year as the Bears' leading receiver as a rookie. That's impressive. That's great stuff, but it never hurts to get a guy like Rome back, who the first 5 weeks of the season looked like the guy for Caleb Williams. It looks incredible.
Yeah, and is he back to full speed?
I don't want to say full speed, because he mentioned that the other day in the locker room where he said, you know what, I'm not going to be to the same conditioning level that I was in the middle of the season where I was playing at a high level, but again, to me, at least, having a 60 to 70% Rome Odunze is still better than most of the league. So I like that a lot, especially in the run game where he's such a good blocker. They missed him in the blocking schemes. But I think the biggest thing then comes down to Kyler Gordon, who's in that nickel quarterback.
Needed.
So needed because C.J. Gardner-Johnson's out tomorrow with concussion. So that cornerback slot spot is wide open. And if they can get Kyler Gordon back in there, even in a reduced, kind of a pitch count sort of deal there, Nick McLeod can fill in kind of in tandem there too. And the coaches have talked up Kyler Gordon, but they've also talked to me a lot about Nick McLeod, who's got a very high football IQ for a guy that's played all over the place for the Bears this year so far. All
right. Now, on the flip side, the Packers are getting Jordan Love back.
Yeah, and that's gonna be the tough one because of all things, this dude is like 118 passer rating,
and it was like our team that knocked him out.
Yes, they're taking that personally.
Yeah,
Jordan Love has had a 118 passer rating against the Bears. He plays really well against Chicago, and it's one of those things where you're like, really?
Yeah.
Like Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love. Now you're like, could they just catch a break? But they are taking that a little bit personally that they knocked him out in the last game. And I know Josh Jacobs kind of mentioned that in the Packers locker room. I think it was Wednesday where he's like, we're going to come out for our guy, which, that's something to watch. It's something to keep in mind. But the Bears really played that stuff off yesterday. They played off a lot of the trash talk that was coming, which is interesting because if you go back to December 7th. I was going to say it's good because that's a part of it's part of the rivalry where the Bears were the ones that were kind of shooting off a little of that trash talk on December 7th. But right now it's completely flipped. The Packers are the one talking a little bit this week where the Bears have just been laser focused.
That's good.
You see a lot of that where they're like, we know what we have to do. We're going to focus the way that we want to focus. And Ben Johnson, I think Colson Loveland mentioned this in the locker room where Ben Johnson said, guys, if you're thinking about anything at all, anything else except for playing the next 5 weeks with the Super Bowl in mind, don't bother coming to Alice Hall. Oh yeah, it's one of those.
People always said he's one of the most passionate people that you will ever meet.
Oh yeah,
when it comes to football,
he's so intense, but he's intense with a purpose, and the players have really gravitated towards that. And the best part about it, he's intense, but he's not saying, I want you to take that intensity and match it. He's saying, I want you to match it in your own way. And the Bears have really taken that into account, especially in their own specific ways. And that's shown this year. And I think that's really a big reason why they've had a lot of success. So let's talk a little bit about keys to the game. Obviously, one of them has to be, full effort from the jump. Yes. That seems to be our Achilles heel over the last several games. Oh, 100%. And the biggest way to get over that is to kind of get back to basics. And Ben Johnson mentioned this earlier this week where they just want to get back to the fundamentals. And for me, for the Bears, fundamentally, they're really good at running the football. Why not lead back into that? Run the football a lot more. In a game where it's going to be cold, it might be snowy. Yeah. We don't know what the conditions are going to look like. where possessions might be a little bit more limited, control the football. That's the one thing where the Bears have not been good at the last couple of games. They have not controlled the football well enough, and they haven't given themselves a lot of possessions where they can capitalize. And I think if you run the ball effectively with Kyle Monangai, DeAndre Swift.
Kyle Monangai being another one of those rookies who kind of came out of nowhere based off of an injury and really showed himself approved.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like a young guy that they've earned the trust. And I remember early on in the season where this is way back in the preseason where Ben Johnson's like, these are like the 5 guys that I trust in the offense. And like it was a very limited number. But now that number's grown to include Colston Loveland, to include Luther Burden, to include Kyle Monangai. Like, it's impressive how these young guys have really taken that, and that's another key for it's getting those young players involved.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've watched Luther Burden play a lot of football. I used to cover him when I covered Mizzou.
Okay.
And when he touches the football, good things happen. And we've seen that the last couple of weeks with the Bears too, where they've given him the football, they get first downs, they get explosive plays. I think getting the ball in his hands is also a key to the game too. But all of this pales in comparison to the number one key of this football game for the Bears.
The defense?
If the defensive line cannot pressure Jordan Love, the Bears are going to be for a long day. It's a little difficult. They have one of the lowest pass rush win rates in the entire NFL. And tomorrow will be a good time to kind of flip that script and say, hey, if we want to win this game, we got to pressure the quarterback.
Yeah. So you've been, tracking things from Hallis Hall all week. What have been, I mean, you've given us a few of the jewels that have come out of it, but like, what have they really been focusing in on?
It's all about the small stuff. It's all about the very easy and small things. And Ben Johnson mentioned this where he's like, protect the football, catch the football, and just
very small.
Yeah, but it's funny because I've noticed this a lot through the Bears all season long. Is as soon as they get that first successful drive under their belt, they start to get that confidence and it builds.
Yeah,
it was there against San Francisco where in the first quarter where they went down 14-7, they had that drive where they scored a touchdown to tie it up, and then boom, they scored 38 points.
Yeah,
like that's really impressive. But against the Lions, it wasn't there. It's because in the first quarter, they just weren't able to get that successful play or that first successful drive and just build off of that. They're really good when they can seize momentum. But they've had an issue just seizing momentum early, finding ways to do that.
Yeah. So, as I mentioned, it's been a very long time since we've even been in this position to be able to say these things, So that in and of itself is a win for the season. What are some wins for the season, some other wins for the season that you would take away from the season thus far?
I think, one, you have a foundation in place. Like we mentioned, the rookies, Monangai, Burden, Loveland, like those guys are the future. And I don't know what the future holds for like a guy like DJ Moore, who's, I don't want to say old because as a 27-year-old.
Not old, but old for football.
Right,
starting to get aged for football.
Right, as a 31-year-old guy who can barely get out of bed in the morning without pulling a hamstring. Like he's doing pretty good. But you don't know how long his future is in Chicago. He's locked in for at least the next couple of years, but after that. But these young guys have really established themselves as the future core of this Bears offense. And when they get going, they are so fun to watch. They are good. They got a lot of swagger to them. But I think the biggest thing out of all of it, especially the biggest development is, hey, like the Bears are not only just atop the NFC North, but they flipped the script with this Packers rivalry. Because before it was always Packers dominating. In the 2020 decade.
The owning.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Like the Packers no longer own this rivalry. And if they win tomorrow, then I don't think the Packers not only own this rivalry, I think it's not only a level playing field, but I think it shifts it towards the Bears a little bit in this instance. And it's such an interesting conversation to have because especially now Matt LaFleur's, I think he's in one of the last years of his contract. And I know they're going to take a look at that because their Super Bowl window's open when they traded for Micah Parsons. And if it's that open, you want to capitalize on that pretty quickly. And now with the Bears, I mean, with a standout head coach, with a core group of offensive players that they know is going to be the future of their offense, flipping the script in this rivalry is not a small feat. I mean, that's 2 decades worth of Packers wins that are really fueling that foundation there. But I mean, the Bears have a chance to really flip the tide, flip the narrative, and say like, hey, in 2022, when Ryan Poles got out there and said, hey, we're going to take the North and never give it back, this is the time. This is the part where they can take it and never give it back.
Okay, so obviously most like 90% of our focus is on this game for tomorrow. Can we talk Big Ten for just a second here, though, too?
Absolutely.
Okay, because football lovers, I mean, this is like Shangri-La. This is just a wonderful stuff going on right now. And someone, I'm not going to mention any names, Anthony Ponce, on our team, may have, skipped a day today so he could go cheer on his alma mater,
Really?
Indiana, in their game.
Oh, you know what? Good for you, Anthony. Good for you. I'll tell you why. Because Indiana football has had the perception of being really bad.
For a while.
You could say forever. They were the losingest football program in college football, period.
It's been crazy. They were just known for basketball.
Yeah. But all of a sudden, Kurt Signetti comes in here and turns this around to the point where he's awakening these basketball fans and saying, hey, we could be really good at football, too.
Yeah.
So again, good for you, Anthony.
Yeah.
But also, we're looking at this Indiana team that is just a juggernaut. The way that they are taking control of football games is just been nothing short of incredible. And I mean, Kurt Signetti is such an interesting guy.
Google him.
Google him.
He says, Google him.
He says, I win, Google him. And at first, I mean, I remember watching that when he said that at the media days. I was there in Indianapolis when he said that, and I was like, look at this guy. But now I'm like, he's got a point. The dude finds ways to win, and it's incredible not only to do that at Indiana, but to do it in year 2 where you beat Ohio State, where you beat Alabama, and you have a chance to go play at a national championship game. And this is a rematch against Oregon, and a lot of coaches will always tell you, and throughout the entire career I've had talking to coaches, high school, pros, and everything in between, will say it's hard to beat a team twice.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
It's so hard to beat a team twice, but I mean, they didn't just beat them earlier. Like, they beat them by 10. They beat them soundly at Oregon. Indiana did. So it's
tough to do.
It's really tough to do, but I mean, man, it's so much fun to watch this new age of football where you can get Indiana on the cusp of a national championship game.
Yeah. So it's kind of like bowl weekend in the college sports world.
Oh yeah, but it's a bowl weekend in college football specifically. It's bowl weekend, but it's also transfer portal weekend.
Oh, that's right.
It's transfer
Speaking
portal
of the
weekend.
Things that are in this generation, this new era right now.
This new world, this new universe, it feels like. So you're seeing a lot of teams like Illinois was dipping into the transfer portal this week too, and they got a new quarterback. Northwestern was dipping into, and they got a new quarterback, Aiden Childs from Michigan State, and you have Notre Dame, which is still yet to make a transfer portal addition, but I think they're on the cusp of getting a couple guys here. But it's interesting to see how it all plays out, and how each team kind of approaches the transfer portal, because even though Indiana is playing for a national championship berth this week, they've already made a couple transfer portal additions. It never stops.
Yeah.
It never sleeps, and it's really interesting.
Yeah, one of the things that I was listening to a coach just last week that was talking about the schedule, the overall schedule. Coach Saban, was talking about for college sports these days, and he's like, this is the craziest thing, because you are having to, like, you're going to a bowl game, but also having to dip into things, and because of the window now that you have for this portal that everyone wants to hop into or get people out of, it's really complicated now for teams.
It's so complicated. And before the new year, Northwestern hired Chip Kelly as its offensive coordinator. And I remember going into that press conference, and I asked David Brown that question. I said, was it important to get him in now? It was like January 26th or 27th. It's like, was it important to get him now before January 2nd when the portal opens? And he said, you know what? We can't control the calendar, but we can control what we do. And it was absolutely critical. Critical was the word that he used, which, coaches, I'm sure every coach has an opinion about the schedule. Every coach has an opinion about the portal, but there's nothing that they can do except do what they can do in order to be in the best position possible to add players and be in the right spot.
Yeah, I still feel like Coach Saban is kind of trying to angle to be the commissioner of it all.
Look, you know what? At the end of the day, college football needs a little bit more oversight, because there's so much that goes on.
There's a lot happening right now.
Oh, literally everything, everywhere, all at once, no matter what. And it's so overwhelming, it feels like. But it lends us to stuff like what we saw this past week, like last night. Ole Miss Miami game was fantastic. And I mean, I remember when I used to live in Oxford, Mississippi, and I covered a little bit of Ole Miss football, where back in the day, that was not something that they dreamed of. was this kind of stuff, being in the Fiesta Bowl, playing Miami with a chance to win a national championship. And it came down to the last play.
Yeah.
And you had players like Trinidad Chambliss, who
I love his story.
Oh, isn't it incredible?
I absolutely love his story. D2, comes up and immediately has it. And you got to think about, like, how often do we see that where you get called up from D2 and immediately you make this kind of difference where your team is going almost all the way, And
you become a folklore hero.
Yeah.
I mean, my favorite restaurant in Oxford, Mississippi is City Grocery. It's a little expensive place, but very good. You'll never have to pay for a meal in that place. I tell you that right now, because this was the best season Ole Miss football has ever had.
Yeah.
A lot of people I know that still cover that team are like, this is a ride that's so unforgettable.
It's been beautiful to watch for them.
So beautiful.
Okay, now let's go back to the NFL. Tomorrow is a big day that you all, for your team, and this is why we so appreciate Chris K coming up, because we know their schedule is insane over the next 24 hours. Walk us through the day for your team tomorrow.
So the Fox 32 sports team, it starts all the way at noon. We have Bears Game Day Live. I believe starts at 12:30, and Cassie Carlson's going to be there already. Yeah, the way that she gets there and does stuff, it feels like she's everywhere all at once.
It does.
She's incredible, does all that. And Tina Wynn's going to be out there at the tailgates, going to get the scene there too, setting what it's like.
Because they'll be up early.
You know that they'll be out there. I know the Waldron deck. That's where I park for game days, and those people ain't no slouches.
They're serious.
Oh, they know what they're doing. And sometimes I walk through that tailgate, I'm like, man, I just want to ask them for, like, can I just have a taste of this? Because this looks incredible.
And smells good too.
Oh, absolutely. And so I'm going to get there around 3 o'clock.
Okay.
So we'll wrap up some of the stuff from the pregame show from Game Day Live, and then we'll get there at 3, and we'll settle in. We'll see what's going on. We'll wait for the inactive lists, which usually come around about an hour and a half before kickoff. We'll see who's in, who's out, and then we just wait. And at that point, the anticipation just grows. And you start to see the players they start showing up, and then the fans start filing in, and you just feel the pressure and the anticipation just keep growing until kickoff, where, if I remember, go back to that December 20th, the Bears-Packers game that was on that Saturday night. That was the moment where I was like, man, let the games begin.
Let it begin.
It's a lot of pressure, but you can just feel the electricity in the air.
Yeah. And then you all are doing post-game too.
Oh, yeah. Post-game, Luke Nellis, Matt Spiegel, I believe they're going to be back here doing it. I think Tina Wynn's involved in that too, and they do a phenomenal job. Pat, the designer from ESPN 1000, they come in here and they're just going to keep going. They'll break down every angle from the game, and Cassie and I will be in the locker room. We'll be at all the post-game interviews, all the press conferences. We'll get all the reaction, win or lose, and it's such an exciting time, especially when you have stuff happening from every angle, but Fox has you covered from every angle.
Certainly hoping that we'll be talking about a win in that post-game coverage for the Bears. Chris, you're awesome. Thank you so much again.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. 1:58, everyone. We'll take a 2-minute break and we'll be right back. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with us in our 2 o'clock hour now of Chicago Live. Plenty that we're going to talk about in this hour. Before we get out of this hour, we're going to bring in some owners of what's been dubbed one of the ugliest homes in America. But it's in Rogers Park. And they're getting ready to have their national TV debut coming up. And so we're going to be talking to them about how much renovation you would really do to a home that's, affectionately been known as one of the ugliest homes in America. We'll also talk about the weather because obviously everyone is keying in on what's happening this weekend with the big game. We'll talk about jobs that are now being created and hopefully filled at the Obama Center as they get ready for their big debut this summer. But obviously, the big game is our big story, and we've tried to think of like every angle possible that we could cover it from. And so that's why we had our own Chris K, who was here talking about how our team is getting ready to cover it through the day. But something just felt, like we hadn't covered one. We hadn't brought in one of our favorites to the broadcast yet. And so I want to go ahead and bring in a former Bear and wonderful entrepreneur, Israel Idonije. Thank you so much for your time, man.
Hey, thanks for having me on the show.
Happy Friday to you. And my, how you have just been like building and opening new things all over the South Loop. You have a new restaurant that just opened. I saw that online, but you're at the second newest, and that would be the Staley, that I think is going to be packed this weekend with people watching football.
Yeah, we're really excited. We expect a full house here, 300 plus people watching the game and celebrating as our guys get this big playoff win.
Mm-hmm. Tell everybody about the Staley. If they're saying, oh, maybe that's somewhere where I should be this weekend to watch the game. If they don't have tickets to be in the game and they don't want to stay at home because the atmosphere is just too electric to be cooped up, what should they expect there?
Yeah, absolutely. The tickets to the game are the hottest ticket in town right now. So if you can't get a ticket to the game, the next best thing, come enjoy the game here with us at the Staley. We have these jumbo, massive projection screens, 4 of them across the entire bar. We have a total of 15 TVs. You can catch the game at every angle. It'll be packed with Bears fans and people just high-fiving, celebrating. We have a DJ, and it's just a great vibe, great energy. And all season long, as the team has been winning these games, it's just been a really energetic atmosphere to be a part of. So if you want to have a good time, if you want to celebrate with other Bears fans, we'd love to have you here at the Staley.
And you were a part of the team for years. So tell me how it's felt to you to watch this run that they're on.
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing. I think, the Bears are near and dear to my heart and will always be, I'd always consider them family. So to see this new era of the team and these young players that are hungry and how they just get after it, regardless of the situation, they find a way to get the win. They find a way to get the job done. It's just been really fun to watch. It's been impressive. And you can see a culture shift, right? The energy in the city is different. The energy everywhere is different. And I'm really excited to see them get this job done tomorrow night.
All right. Now, we talked about what we thought were the keys of the game from our angle, but of course, neither one of us had ever been in the National Football League. So from your perspective, what do you think are the keys to success for the Bears tomorrow?
Well, I think a few things. One, let's start with the offense. This offense is high-powered. They have the ability to score. They have the ability to get in that end zone. I think a key to the game is going to be getting in their rhythm early. I'd love to see them running the ball early. They're a great running team. When they start leaning on that run with Monangai and Swift early, they're a problem for teams. So I think establishing their run, establishing that, bone-on-bone football early, I think it'll be important. Defensively, we've got to be stingy, right? We can't give them anything on that defense. We've got to play tough. We've got to, we've excelled at taking the ball away. We've got to continue to do that, take the ball away, either score or put our offense in the position to score. And then on special teams, you're always looking for one big play in the game from that special teams unit. So if we can do those 3 things, I'm sure we'll come away with a win.
I'm certainly hoping so. Do you have a prediction for that score?
I don't have a score prediction. I mean, I have no idea, but I am feeling really good about us going out there here at home and handling business and getting that win. I'm hoping it's a lot of points for us and no points for the Packers.
We'll go with that. So when you talk about handling business, as I said, your portfolio is just overflowing. First, let me just ask you to talk about making that transition from the league into entrepreneurship as you have.
Yeah, I mean, the life of an entrepreneur is not easy, right? And thankfully for me, here in Chicago, I had a lot of great mentors. I had a lot of great support as I had these ideas and these concepts that I wanted to bring to life. Being able to lean on people to give me input, to give me adjustments on how I can make my ideas and concepts successful has been mission critical. And you've got to be able to work, right? The life of an entrepreneur is one of solving problems, swinging the axe every day, finding a solution, and then continuing to move forward. And I've been really fortunate to have a really great team behind me, and being able to find a few wins along the way has been really great. And we love it. We love the idea of getting up and building for yourself. And that's what an entrepreneur does every day.
Walk us through your businesses. If people don't know all the things you're connected to, and they don't see online the things that are being added in, walk us through your businesses right now.
Well, staying on the hospitality side, so we have Pangea, which is our restaurant group. We have a steakhouse called Signature. We have the Staley here, which is our sports bar, almost 9,000 square feet here on Michigan and 17th. We just opened a little Italian cocktail bar on 16th and Michigan called Buttercup. We're really excited about that. It's been amazing here in the neighborhood. We're opening an ice cream shop called Happy's. We're opening up a martini bar called Martini Lounge. We're opening up a Japanese cocktail bar as well. And then I'm hoping 2027, we're going to deliver a 154-key Hilton here on Motoro in the South Loop.
OMG. So some would joke, but it's really becoming real. You're Mr. South Loop. How does that feel when people say that?
I mean, the South Loop to me is one of Chicago's best neighborhoods, right? Your proximity to all the parks. You're on Michigan Avenue. It's like this little suburbs in the city. It's really a gem, and I love the neighborhood. I've fallen in love with it from back in my playing days when we'd leave Soldier Field and we'd be in this neighborhood in this area. So it's one of those areas where I just fell in love with, and I've planted my roots here. I'm committed to continuing to develop and be a part of the growth of this area.
Tell me about some of the things that will be on the menu. Do you have any specials for tomorrow, or anything that's going to be on the menu that people can get ready for?
Yeah, lots of pizza, wings, burgers. We have 12 different beers on tap. So if you're a beer drinker, we have plenty of beer for the drinkers, and just great energy, right? I think the number one thing on the menu is just positive energy for 4 full quarters is what we hope to be serving here alongside a lot of happy Bears fans.
We're certainly hoping that that's what you're serving up, and that's what the city is feeling at the end of the day. Thank you so much, one, for what you're doing for the South Loop and really the city as a whole, and for us all to be able to experience your growth is a beautiful thing as well.
Thank you. Hope to see you soon.
All right, will do. All right, it's about 2:10, everyone. It really is really cool to see all of the businesses that he is adding to his portfolio. And we have talked to several former Bears today who are just doing amazing things. We talked to 2 high school coaches in the area today who are former Bears, and the way they're able to mentor young men who see in them something that they hope to add to their lives, and they're able to do things in a different way when what they have done literally is where these kids are trying to go. It is a wonderful thing to be able to see see how that connection is made, to be able to see Israel Idonije go in a different direction from sports, into hospitality, and to be able to do all of the things that he's doing. I mean, it feels like every few months something else is popping up that he's connected to. It's really good to see all of those things, because it also teaches, and I believe one of the schools that we went to this morning, one of the coaches who is a former Bear said for his team that the average GPA for his team is 3.55. 3.55. That is outstanding for these young student athletes. And what it says is these are smart young men who, yes, physically are able to do great things, but mentally they're going to be able to do wonderful things off of the field as well, especially as time goes on. So it's great to be able to see it all. It's 2:11 right now. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to continue on with our conversations. All right, welcome back, everyone. It's about 2:15 right now. I took off my Bears shiny jacket because we're going to continue on with the conversation away from the game that will be tomorrow. I'm still hoping for a Bears win. But, one of the things that we're going to talk about in our 3 o'clock hour are the current jobs numbers. The new jobs report just came out this morning, and so we'll be able to kind of assess how things are going in the country, especially how things were going over the last couple of months, government shutdown, post-government shutdown. But we do have many jobs that are coming here to Chicagoland, and specifically, you have been personally and formally invited to apply for jobs at one of the places that might be the most might be having the most anticipated opening of 2026, and that is the Obama Presidential Center. So it's an honor, really, to have John Roberson, the Executive Vice President of the Obama Presidential Center, joining me right now. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate you making time for me today as you all get ready for what will be just an amazing moment, really for the city, for the state, for the country. Tell me about the jobs, the career opportunities that are available for people.
Well, as you mentioned, we will be opening the Obama Presidential Center in June of this year. And in anticipation of that opening, we have to hire people who will work at the Obama Presidential Center, and really people who are going to be excited about this very unique and historic opportunity to work at the Presidential Center for the first African American president in the history of our country. And so we have 150 career full-time positions that we're going to be offering across a number of our different operating departments, visitor services and education. These are the people who are our frontline employees and team members who will be greeting and guiding visitors who come to the Presidential Center through their visit and experience. We have our security guards. These are the people who are going to ensure that every single person who comes to the Obama Presidential Center campus has an inviting, warm, and safe experience. And then there are those who are going to be working in our facilities group, who are responsible for ensuring that both inside and out, that the physical presentation of the Obama Presidential Center is absolutely pristine and is reflective of the excellence of the person's name who is on this Presidential Center.
You know, when I saw your name on here, it didn't hit me until you popped up. The Obama Presidential Center snagged you for a career there from the city. Tell me about what made you want to be a part of the team.
Well, I was born here in Chicago, raised by Chicago, born on the South Side. And so the same lived experience that many of the applicants who are going to be applying for the jobs here at the Obama Presidential Center is the same lived experience I have. I know what the South Side was like being underinvested prior to the Obama Presidential Center coming, and realizing that my lived experience was shaped by the very same things that shaped President Obama and shaped First Lady Michelle Obama. And so it is such an honor and a humbling opportunity for me to go from serving the city to now leading this global, iconic cultural and civic institution that not just speaks to the past, not just speaks to the legacy of President Obama, but really is about forwarding and amplifying really what our foundation is all about, which is to inspire, to empower, and to connect the next generation of global leaders. Whether that global leader comes from South Shore or whether they come from South Korea. What we want to do is we want to equip people with the tools that they need to return to their communities in order to create the change that they are seeking, so that we can have stronger communities, a stronger city, a stronger country, and ultimately a stronger and better world.
Mm-hmm. When you talk about community, there is that fusion that you all are really trying to do. As you mentioned, there are going to be people from all over the world who come in to experience the Obama Presidential Center, but really highlighting the community within those walls. Tell me a little bit more about the effort there.
So the intentionality that President and Mrs. Obama had in locating the Presidential Center on the south side of Chicago, the best side of Chicago, was very deliberate. And so the way that the entire almost 20-acre campus has been designed with both community in mind and was designed with community input. And so while we have several elements to the Presidential Center. We have our museum building, which obviously will lift up and amplify the legacy and the work of President and Mrs. Obama. We have what we call the Forum, which will house a auditorium where we will be able to convene and conduct workshops and speaking engagements and all types of things that bring people together who share these common values. We're going to have a food and vegetable garden that is very much modeled after the First Lady's initiative at the White House, where fresh vegetables and fruit will be grown on site. People will be also taught in a teaching kitchen that is there. And our restaurant that we will have at the Obama Presidential Center will actually be using the fruits and the vegetables that are grown there as part of our menu. We also have a playground, a 3-acre playground, where kids will be able to simply come to the Presidential Center and to enjoy themselves and to explore and recreate. We also have a great lawn that is going to have the opportunity to showcase any number of things. Acts as a sledding hill during the winter, but will also be a great lawn that will showcase movies in the park in the summer. And then we have what we call our home court. Home court is the athletic center that has an NBA quality court, as well as other program spaces that we have there. And this entire campus is all for the purpose of supporting the programs of the Obama Presidential Center. But here's what's really important. The majority of the campus, with the exception of the 4 floors of the museum, are absolutely free. You don't have to pay to come to the campus. You can actually go to the museum tower and go to the very top floor, which is our sky deck, which will have an amazing art presentation. And you will be able to look out and see the expanse of the entire south side of Chicago, the expanse of the west side along the Midway Plaisance and expanding further west. And also be able to see wonderful views of downtown Chicago. There is nowhere on the south side that gives you this perspective of the city that we love located here on the south side. So it is more than just a museum. It is more than just a collection of artifacts. This is about a presidential center that is reflective of the values and the things that President Obama and Mrs. Obama hold so dear in the work that they tried to amplify during their years in the White House.
You know, we see them kind of pop into Chicago from time to time, and people are always, mystified when they do. Tell me about the community organizations that you all have partnered with in this effort, who they are and why you've specifically chosen these community organizations to partner with.
Sure. So the organizations that we are partnering with are the Cara Collective, the North Lawndale Employment Network, the Skills for Chicago, and the St. Sabina Employment and Resource Center. And we wanted to use these community-based organizations to recruit local residents who represent Chicago. Because we are going to be this global iconic institution, we wanted to make sure that the people who work here reflect the greatness of Chicago and reflect the greatness and the specialness of the South Side of Chicago. And so these organizations are helping us to recruit and identify persons to apply for these jobs. And there's such excitement about wanting to work and take advantage of this special opportunity. We have almost 7,000 applications just in less than a week. And so we know that there are a lot of people who want to be a part of this experience, people who share the values of President and Mrs. Obama, and they want to be a part of this team to continue to tell the story of not just what has happened, but what is also possible. Each and every single one of us coming together around an aggregate action to make better communities, better city, better country, better world.
In 7,000 applicants, and I'm sure you all haven't gone through all of them as of yet, but are we seeing people from all walks of life? Or, is it mainly young people who are trying to get their start? Or are we really seeing people of all ages and a good mixture there?
It's very diverse, and it's not too different from the makeup of our current employee workforce. We have young people, we have Generation X, we have millennials, we have old guys like me who are all centered around this very important work of amplifying the message of hope. And that's really what this is about. It's about coming together around the work of hope and inspiring and empowering people, connecting people who have common values so that we can create the type of change that we want, that we can make a better world, we can make a better country, we can make a better city, and we can make our communities better as well.
Hope has been such a central word in Chicago for so long, for many generations now. What's your favorite part of the Presidential Center thus far?
Wow. That's like asking you who's your favorite kid. But, I think that for me, it really is about the entirety of the campus. because all of these different elements are working together to tell a story, to tell the story of how a young organizer from the south side of Chicago and a young woman who grew up on the south side of Chicago came together and met, and the confluence of not just their lived experience, but the confluence of the events and experiences of our country all came together to create the perfect moment that allowed for the first African American president in the history of our country and the first African American first lady to be able to go to the White House and to work on behalf of the American people. That this place is very special, and I am so excited and looking forward to everyone coming to the Obama Presidential Center and being able to see the history, but also to leave here inspired to move forward to their communities to actually make change.
Yeah. So what is the timeline that we're looking at now? You know, I said, summer anticipated opening, but like walk us through January to June.
Well, what we're doing right now, there are still some finishing touches that we're doing in terms of construction. And so we're going to be doing that through the spring. There's landscaping that still needs to be done in anticipation of the opening. We're going to be working very hard to make sure that we get all of these new employees that we are hiring trained in the specific areas of responsibility that they have, so that when we open in June, we will be able to give people the type of experience that is like no other. There is no other presidential center library that is like this. And we are making sure that we're doing everything possible to live up to the expectations of the president and first lady by making sure that we are working very hard to make sure that we are prepared and to make sure that whether you are the first customer or the 100,000th customer who comes to the Obama Presidential Center, that you experience the same great level of excellence, warmth, greeting, and inspiration when you come to visit the Obama Presidential Center.
You mentioned other, presidential libraries or centers around the country. I'm sure you all had to do a little research looking at those. What were some things that they wanted to specifically make different about this one?
Well, I think that one of the things that is very different about the Obama Presidential Center is the architecture. When you look at the building, it is designed in a way to simulate four hands coming together. And that is about the message of all of us unifying around common work. We have an athletic center that is a part of the Obama Presidential Center. We have a Chicago Public Library that will be a part of the Presidential Center campus and will be the new model for what Chicago Public Libraries are going to be going forward. We are going to have program spaces that will encourage and provide safe spaces for young people to learn everything from music and video and media to do podcasts. But it's also going to have a presidential reading center where people will be able to go and be able to read the same books that inspired President Obama. And so what really excites me about what is unique about this, number one, it's on the South Side. It is in an urban area. And so this has been very catalytic in terms of how it has helped in terms of small businesses and job opportunities like this. It's not located in DC or anywhere else. It's located in the neighborhood where the president and the first lady got their start and the things that helped to shape their lived experience.
I have to ask you this, and you can act like no one will ever hear it. We'll never repeat it. You mentioned the athletic center. Are we going to see President Obama out on that court? And does he still have as good of a shot as he used to have?
Well, I think that if you ask the president, he will tell you that LeBron James and Steph Curry have nothing on him. This, as you know, sports is such a central part of who the president is in the legacy that he believes is in sports and its ability to change and help to train leaders through sports. And so, yeah, I anticipate that there are going to be some pickup games. I know they did it at the White House, and so I fully anticipate that he will get a chance to get a few rounds in at the athletic center.
Now, I want to flip the script, and I want to kind of end on a serious note. What do you make of the timing of the opening?
Well, you know, the timing is based upon when we decided we would be able to finish the construction. Look, I have worked in the city of Chicago and worked on a number of projects, whether it's at the airport, building terminals, runways, and I can tell you that every project is complicated, and this is no different. And so the timing of this is absolutely perfect. It is finishing when it's supposed to be finished. And so the ability for us to unveil the Obama Presidential Center in this space, in this time, I think is an absolutely extraordinary opportunity, both for the South Side of Chicago and for our city. We will be the newest edition of a cultural institution in the city. And so we are very excited to be able to welcome the world and help them to see what is absolutely special about the South Side and what is absolutely special about the city of Chicago.
What's significant about that in the scope of history, though?
Well, you know, I think that what is most significant is that this is the presidential center for the first black president in the history of our country. That in and of itself, I think, amplifies and speaks to how far our country has come. But I think President Obama will tell you is that it will also speak to how much further we have to go. There is so much work that still needs to be done to ensure that each and every single citizen of our country, of our city, and in our communities are able to experience the abundance that America represents. And I think that with the Obama Presidential Center opening up in June, it will be a beacon. It will be a mecca for people to come to get reinvigorated, to get involved in the work in the dialogue of perfecting this union in this experiment that is the United States. And so the timing is perfect. The message is perfect. And the opportunity to do this work for and on behalf of President and Mrs. Obama is an extraordinary opportunity of a lifetime.
Well said. This is why you are the executive vice president of the Obama Presidential Center. John, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate it. Please keep us updated on things.
All right. And looking forward to J13.
Listen, you know, I wasn't going to put it out there and there. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I saw that on your lapel there. Thank you so much,
Absolutely.
brother. All right. 2:33 right now. We are sorority and fraternity brothers and sisters there. So 2:33. Let's take a quick break, 2 minutes, and we'll be right back. 2:35, and we're back with meteorologist Mark Stroud. Thank you so much for coming up.
Well, you know what? If I get the call, I'm coming as fast as the fire department would.
We appreciate
To be
you,
on
man.
your show? Come on. Why wouldn't I?
Well, we know you have to get ready, for the
There's
later shows
stuff,
today.
and then there's
you
stuff.
know. All right. Thank
Yeah.
you for making us a priority.
Yeah, you
in
are
your
priority.
day.
Job one. Job one, baby.
So many people, though, we had to have you up here because everyone wants to know what's going on, what the
Right.
weather's going to be looking like for this game tomorrow.
Well, and it's kind of some crazy weather because it's been so mild lately, and with all that rain, you're like, well, what's coming next? So let's cut right to the chase.
Okay.
Here's the deal. We have some snow coming in overnight and into the early morning hours.
All right.
Now, it's going to be wet, sloppy, slushy snow, and we're going to get that much of it. That much. About 3/4 of an inch.
Okay.
An inch. So it's not going to be a big deal. And I think there'll be some snow showers around during the afternoon. I think most of the snow showers are out of here by the time kickoff ensues.
Okay.
But it's going to be, tomorrow's going to be up in the 30s. It's going to be a little bit above average. But you won't know that being at the game because it's going to fall back into the 30s, lower 30s, and it's going to be windy and blustery, and there's going to be a little chill in the air. So, I kind of wouldn't mind a little snow for the game. I love me a good snowball.
Where did you grow up?
Right here.
That's why.
Yeah. Yeah. Miss
That's why.
Tropical. Miss Tropical.
I'm just saying, you're like, I love it. Yeah, it'd be great. So, going into it, last night felt ferocious.
Yeah.
So are we like the ground is already? I saw yesterday like there was tarp over the field. So are we looking at like a soggy type of game, or what do you think yesterday's weather adds to what we'll see?
Probably not much, as you
Okay.
pointed out. The tarps, keeping it. Now, usually January. It's hard as a rock, right? It's frozen, or I'm not sure. Do they
Good
have,
point.
Jim, do they have a heater coil underneath the grass? I don't.
I think I thought
not
they
here.
had something.
Okay. So it would be cold. I mean, you don't want to get tackled in January. I mean, even though it's grass, it's it's hard. So I would say a softer feel, but not spongy soft. Especially those guys out there, they do a good job of taking care of the turf. So
They do.
like you said, they had the tarp up there, so it's not going to be spongy. It's going to be comfortably soft. But again, I think it's going to be a little bit blustery and cold. Now again, not January 12 below cold. We're talking about maybe upper 20s, low 30s.
Because
probably
we had
low
the
30s.
January 12 below in December.
Yeah, right. We got that out of the way early. So it's going to be a little blustery, and there'll be some snow showers again earlier on, but slushy snow. So someone was asking me earlier, they really wanted to know about it's going to slow things. No, I don't think driving is going to be an issue. I think we're going to see some slushy snow and maybe a sidewalk early, and then maybe some grassy areas. But I think we're going to be just take a little. A little bounty picker upper for your seat, because it might be a little damp when you go to sit down there. And just,
But you're not going to have to like scoop anything out of your seat.
Hopefully not. No, hopefully not. Hopefully
good.
it's melted off then. And if it does, just push it down onto your neighbor's seat or
On a Packers seat.
Yeah, there you go. They'll like that
Push it
anyway.
off on a Packers
That's how they roll. They like having snow down the back of their neck. Yeah.
So obviously the game day is our focus, but if we start to look into next week, what are we anticipating?
Okay, so it does stay a little colder there for Sunday, 32. So that's about average, maybe a degree or so above average. And then look at that, Monday and Tuesday, we're back up in the 40s again.
Nice.
And again, kind of, a lot of clouds around, some gray conditions. And then we run back into little rain that could mix with some snow on Wednesday. And really the next legitimately cold, and by cold I mean anything below average, we go Thursday, that's 28 degrees. And I got to tell you, that ain't much below average. So there's nothing really brutally cold as of this point in the 7-day forecast. We're still Saturday night will be a little blustery and a little chilly sitting there in the stadium, but nothing like bone-chilling, bone-racking cold here coming immediately down the pike.
It feels like it, and I don't know if it's just because we've had a rather mild week, but it feels like we haven't felt the 20s in at least a couple of weeks.
It's been quite a bit because we've had such a warm stretch, and we set records I want to say today, because they came just after midnight.
Look at that.
I have a hard time keeping track of the last couple of days.
This is our new 2800 camera. Isn't
I like
that
it.
amazing?
That is one of the prettiest views of the city.
Yeah.
And you can see there we've enjoyed some sunshine this afternoon, which is really a nice break because we've had so much cloud cover lately. But we're not going to see much again as we head back through the rest of the evening. We're not going to see much clear skies, and then we're going to be back into some clouds and some snow coming up tomorrow. So, yeah.
That vantage point looks like if we had a little yellow on it, that it would be the yellow brick road coming up to
The Emerald City.
Yeah.
I mean, that is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
That is one of the prettiest views of the city. I know a lot of the photographers will go right down there to the left, out on the beaches and take that view of the city, and it's magical, isn't it?
It really is amazing. It really is, and especially on a Friday.
On a Friday, makes it all the more
Everything's
worthwhile,
better
right?
on Friday.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you
welcome.
coming up, and we'll be ready for whatever comes because you've gotten us ready. We appreciate you helping us prepare. 2:41, everyone. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Hey, 2:43 right now. Thanks so much for staying with us. We want to go out to Washington, D.C. The president right now is meeting with oil executives following, of course, the attack that took place over the weekend in Venezuela and the developments that have taken place since then. Let's listen in.
Barry's the one that told me this.
Yeah, he's a champion, in a lot of ways. So love that story. Certainly, it excites me as an explorationist. Everybody has that in their blood, and it is a very exciting country and a lot of reserves. And so it's got its challenges, and the industry knows how to handle that. And like Darren said, you go into your eyes open and do the best you can with the team you got. So
Well, you're going to have something that they never had really here is tremendous security. You're going to be very secure, very safe, physically safe in addition to financially safe. So it's good to see you, Harold. Thank you very much. Does anybody have anything to say before we get to the press?
What does Cuba have to do to avoid the same fate as Venezuela? What does Cuba have to
Well, Cuba's in bad shape. Cuba relied on Venezuela for oil and for money. And nobody really knows what's going to happen with Cuba. They're doing very poorly. They're really third world all the way. And we have a lot of great Cuban Americans. And I would say Marco fits very solidly into that category. And I might ask you to say a few words about, we were discussing it before, Cuba is a very different, they don't have energy, they don't have oil, but they would live off of the oil from Venezuela. And what they do have is very strong people and very powerful people militarily, and they would protect the people running Venezuela, and they would take in a lot of money from Venezuela. Now they don't have that. They won't be taking in any money. So, Marco, what do you think?
Well, I mean, the fundamental problem in Cuba is that it's run by incompetent people that don't know what an economy looks like, much less a functioning one. They've made a choice, and that is they would rather have political control over the people than they would have an economy that functions. And they've gotten away with it for 60-something years because they've had donors, the Soviet Union, and now most recently Venezuela. But that's now gone. So the people in control in Cuba have a choice to make. They can either have a real country with a real economy where their people can prosper, or they can continue with their failing dictatorship that's going to lead to systemic and societal collapse. So it's a very stark and dramatic choice, and it's one we hope to make the right one. We don't have an interest in a destabilized Cuba, but that would be their fault because they refuse to allow the people of Cuba to have either economic or political freedom for that matter.
And you have a lot of people in this country that want to go back to Cuba and help Cuba. A lot of people have left, they came in penniless, they didn't have anything, and they've become very rich people in our country, and they want to very much go back and help Cuba. So that's something that Cuba has that a lot of other places don't have. Peter?
President Trump, thank you. I do want to ask you about Minnesota, but first, just more on topic. President Zelensky said that he was watching with the rest of the world as you made this order to go and capture Nicolas Maduro. And he said, if that's how it works with dictators, then the United States knows what to do next. Sounds like he wants you to go and capture Vladimir Putin. Would you ever order a mission to go and capture Vladimir Putin?
Well, I don't think it's going to be necessary. I think we're going to have I've always had a great relationship with him. I'm very disappointed. I settled 8 wars. I thought this would be in the middle of the pack or maybe one of the easier ones. And I don't know if you know, Peter, the last month, they lost 31,000 people, many of them Russian soldiers, and the Russian economy is doing poorly. I think we're going to end up getting it settled. I wish we could have done it quicker because a lot of people are dying, and mostly soldiers. They get hit in Kiev and they get hit a little bit here and there, and people are dying there too. But largely, it's the soldier population. When you have 30,000, 31,000 soldiers dying in a period of a month, 27,000 the month before, 26,000 the month before that. That's bad stuff. So, as you know, President Biden gave $350 billion to Ukraine to fight, and we would never get that back, although I did make a rare earth deal to get it back, so we will be getting it back, but shouldn't have done that. It was a bad thing to do. I will say that
Hey, we were listening in there as the president again was speaking with oil executives there at the White House following the attacks and the capture of now former president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, and his wife. And now this question of what will take place with the oil that country produces start to arise and how the U.S. will be involved in that. But then they also started to take questions from the reporters who are in the room. And those reporters began to ask about how this also affects, or what we're seeing between the Ukrainian people and Russia. And he began to speak there about promises that were made under the Biden administration that he is now mulling over in terms of the long-term support that the U.S. is providing to the Ukrainian people. Of course, Russia just sent over a missile, launched a missile into Ukraine overnight that was nuclear capable. And so, as he said, maybe things would be ramping down. We're actually seeing new missiles, a new type of missile even, that's being launched into that area. Another thing I forgot to mention there on Venezuela, of course, the U.S. has seized another oil tanker in the Caribbean. That was news that just broke this morning here. So still more that's happening in both of those international stories that we'll continue to watch in the hours that come this evening, and then also in the days, weeks, and months that will follow, as both of those stories are ongoing. Let's take a woosah and bring in a very uplifting story, a unique story, and one that brings us here from, a national debut to what's happening right here in Chicago. I'm so excited to meet the owners of what's been dubbed one of the ugliest houses in America, Ricky Gonzalez and Joe Bergantino. Thank you so much for your time.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Happy Friday to you both. Are you sitting in your home right now?
Yes, we are.
Okay, well, it looks beautiful from this vantage point, at least the wall. Maybe you gave us the accent wall. I'm not sure. But so you all are getting ready to be on HGTV for this show, Ugliest House in America. I have to ask you, if it's all about renovations, there's an affectionate kind of way of looking at ugliest house, that term, ugliest house in America. How much do you really want to change it?
We're not changing the outside ever. We were very adamant from day one when we got the call asking if we wanted to be on the show that we're never going to paint the house different colors. We actually just repainted it a year ago, all the same colors. We love the exterior. The inside, it needs some work.
I think there'd also be a neighborhood revolt if we did.
When you talk about a neighborhood revolt, yes. Talk a little bit more about how the unique look of your home has really become something that has warmed so many hearts.
Yeah, I think before we even considered buying it, years before we even considered buying it, we would walk by it, and you just have to look at it and smile. You're surrounded by very typical Chicago brick houses, 3 flats, and then you go past one of these apartment buildings and you see this pop of bright pink and yellow and blue. I don't know. It's just like, it always brought a smile to our face when we walked by.
Yeah.
And I think the neighborhood, I think it's been these colors for nearly 40 years. And it's become, it's very well known here in the neighborhood as a Candyland house. So I think we would end up with a revolt in our hands, and it's not something that we would ever consider doing.
For people who aren't seeing it right now, what makes it the Candyland house?
It's bright, it's colorful, it's yellow, it's white, it's blue, it's pink, and even on the inside, it's all those same colors.
Yeah.
But it just always makes people stop, smile, laugh. We always see people taking photos in front of our house as well. It's a neighborhood staple. It's a Rogers Park, keep it weird.
Does that ever bother you, the attention that it's getting?
No, we think it's hilarious. We'll run to the windows to try to get into photos and see how we actually do.
Love it.
I would say we love it when people take photos outside. We don't love it as much when people ring the doorbell and ask for tours.
Yes.
That's a little bit far, you guys. But feel free to take pictures of the outside.
Well, hopefully people hear that as you're getting ready to go on an even larger stage that will attract even more people to your home. Tell me about getting that call from HGTV.
So it was, we didn't think it was a real call at first. We kind of put it off answering it and calling them back. But they said that they were following our Instagram, Homos with Hammers, and they've been following the house on Zillow Gone Wild before we bought it. And then we called them, and it turned out to be HGTV, and they kind of buried the lead about what show it would be for quite some time.
We were talking to them, and we would ask them, so what show is this for? And they would breeze past it and just go like, oh yeah, and so the camera crew would be there, and then we'd be on TV, and we'd, for what show? Eventually she just goes, well, not to cause any offense, because I'm sure you love your home, but it's called The Ugliest House in America. But you do get a chance at winning a renovation. We were like, you know what? For a chance at a renovation, you can call me ugly. That's okay.
Were you at all offended by hearing that?
No. We laughed. we just thought it was hilarious. I mean, our house is not a typical house. We know that people are not going to enjoy it as much as like we do, but there are the lovers and there are the haters of the house, and we absolutely love it.
Mm-hmm. So when they say a chance at a renovation, how does this work?
So there's 15 houses, I think. So there's 15 houses total on the show. They separated by region. So we're in the Midwest region, and one house from each of those regions moves on to the finals. And I think we can announce that we did move on to the finals.
Yes, the show aired, yes.
Yeah, so the show is aired. We are moving on to the finals, and so I believe in 2 or 3 weeks we get to find out if we're getting a full renovation or not.
All right, we're going to ask for a long shot here. Are you all at all close to the door where you could take us outside to see the home?
Yes, if you don't mind the swaying camera for a second.
Come on.
Right,
We've got time.
1 second.
So while they're on the move here, this home was built in 1891. And it was a longtime home of artist Jackie Seiden and the late Don Seiden. And it, as they said, was decorated years and years ago. The Seiden family put the house up for sale in 2021. And so now it has new owners and possibly some new things that will be taking place to it. We shall see. But this is super exciting. This is season 7 of The Ugliest House in America. And so now it comes to Rogers Park, where we're able to see something that, you know, those of us around here, clearly some people already are going to go see for ourselves in person. But because you're here on Chicago Live, we're going to get our own view. Have you all made it outside?
Oh, yeah. Can you hear us?
Look at it there. Wow. Wow.
Yeah, it's subtle. As you can see, it's bright, it's pink,
I
it's
would have
blue.
missed it.
Love it.
Easy to miss. What are some of the renovations you'd like to do on the inside?
Oh, man. We need all new floors.
And bathrooms.
And master. If you see the show, you'll see our master bath, and yeah, we definitely need to update the master bath. Well, let's just say we have an open concept bathroom in the main bedroom.
What are the things that you love about the outside? The things that we're seeing here. What are the things that you love?
We really do enjoy just everything about the house. How bright it is, the old Victorian style of it. It does keep true to that on the exterior. But it does make people stop. It makes them smile. You always are seeing new colors, new patterns everywhere on the house. And we do enjoy the yard. It has a full coach house in the back that we use as our workshop when we do construction.
Now, let's say you get all of the renovations. You know, you win, you get all the renovations. Whoop, whoop, everything is done. Is this like your forever home? Or do you think this is... Okay, all right.
We're committed to never leaving this house. We love it. It'll be great. We actually didn't want to do a huge renovation on a house when we purchased this, but it just happened to work out that way.
Yep.
All right.
Couldn't say no.
Couldn't say no. When will we know whether you all are the winners?
We'll all know if we're selected on the February season finale.
Yeah, sometime at the beginning of February.
Sometime at the beginning of February. We're going to keep track of things. We're hoping for the absolute best. You all are the best for coming outside and showing us the house. That was totally awesome of you all.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay. We'll check back in.
Bye.
Bye. Awesome couple and awesome home. It's about 2 minutes before the top of the 3 o'clock hour. Let's take a quick break with our smiles, and we'll be right back. All right, it's 3:01 right now. Thanks for being here in our final hour of Chicago Live today. Final one for the week, everybody. And let me tell you about some of the things that we're looking forward to in this hour. Before we get out of here, we're going to talk with the Reclamation Board, Water Reclamation Board, about flooding in the area and the water quality as well. We're also going to have a really important conversation about helmets and e-bikes and e-scooters. I mean, we see e-bikes and e-scooters zooming around all over the place, but a new report says that it's not necessarily a requirement in many households for young people especially to wear helmets when they're on them. So we'll talk more about that with the author of that report. Here's a biggie. Right around 3:15, we're going to be talking about America's shrinking attention span. I'm sure we've all felt it. We've all experienced it to some degree, but we're going to talk about just how bad things have gotten in our country in terms of the attention span for all of us. But we're starting right now with new numbers out for the jobs report. Just came out this morning. The U.S. economy added 50,000 jobs in December, so we're getting a better picture of post-government shutdown. Things were a little delayed, and now we're starting to get a better picture. I want to go ahead and bring in Stephen Cates with Bankrate to discuss what we are seeing and what was in that report. Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
So as indicated on the screen, it's kind of a mixed bag here when it comes to the jobs report that came out today. Would you think?
Very mixed, very uneven.
So describe to me what the highlights are first.
So I think it's important to know that the last 2 months we have seen positive payrolls job growth. So that is a good thing. But when you zoom out, over the last 6 months, we've only averaged just about 15,000 jobs, new jobs per month. So that's pretty bad. That's not great. And, we've had a few good months and we've had a few terrible months. October being one of them, when we had, and it was revised even further down in this latest report, we had negative 173. And most of that was due to government jobs. And a big portion of people that were taking severance, that hit in October. So that's one of the reasons that happened. That isn't likely to repeat, but it obviously negatively impacted sort of the last 6 months. And over 2025, we added only 584,000 jobs. You can compare that to 2024 when we added just over 2 million.
Whoa, big difference there. So even when we say, we added 50,000 jobs in December, we're also looking at not meeting expectations. That's more context to the picture.
I think that's true. And the expectations are important because people are used to seeing larger job gains on a monthly basis. Obviously, the last 6 months or so, it's been middling. But what we have today isn't necessarily the same economy or the same labor market that we had 6 months ago, 12 months ago, 18 months ago. We have far fewer immigrants coming into the country. That does impact the size of the labor force and the growth that we need to maintain a similar unemployment rate. So we don't need to add as many jobs every month as we did back in January or in 2024 when there was more immigration and a larger hiring stream for government jobs. So things are a little bit different. 50,000 did actually allow the unemployment rate to fall from 4.5 to 4.4%. Is it going to stay at 4.4? That's hard to know. Coming out of the government shutdown, we've got some distortions and disruptions that made December, again, a little bit wonky because some government workers that were furloughed went from unemployed to employed. So that does move the numbers around a little bit. We're going to need a January and a February data over the next couple months to get a better sense of whether this is a plateau or just a pause.
Tell me about, and you mentioned government workers, but if we go sector to job sector, some of the things that we saw.
So this is really the uneven nature that I mentioned before. So sector by sector, there isn't a lot to love. healthcare is carrying the labor market on its back right now. If we exclude healthcare over the 2025 year, we would have negative job growth. So healthcare really did most of the heavy lifting. In addition to healthcare, social services, restaurants, food and drink establishments, they had the largest amounts of growth in terms of jobs. Others had flat or very middling amounts, but many, including goods producing sectors like manufacturing, they were negative.
So when you talk about like generational trends, you made some mention to like some generational trends. Do you see those continuing?
So a great question. So I think a lot of younger people are feeling extremely frustrated, especially college graduates this past year, are seeing one of the widest gaps in their unemployment relative to the overall unemployment rate that we've seen in a long, long time. So, there is a legitimate reason to feel downbeat on the economy when you're coming out of school or have been coming out of school in the last few years, and you find it very difficult to find a job or difficult to switch jobs. That's a real thing. But we are starting to see that employment for younger people, especially college graduates, is actually coming down, and that's a good thing. We peaked in September at a 9.7% unemployment for graduates between the ages of 20 and 24. That fell in November to 6.8%. So nearly a 3 percentage point decrease. That's a good thing. And that is likely to continue in December. We don't have all the cohort data just yet, but the typical trend for unemployment for graduates or recent graduates is that unemployment peaks sometime around the summer, and then it starts to fall back down again as people pick up more jobs, and find some of the work that becomes available through the end of the year. We're seeing that trend continue this year, although unemployment overall is higher for just about everybody.
What's some other new data that came out today?
So one of the things that is interesting to look at is hourly wage growth is up 3.8% year over year. That's a nominal number, so it's not inflation adjusted. One thing that's good is that is positive. We are seeing real inflation adjusted growth. It's just not as high as a lot of people remember from kind of the peak growth in 2021 and 2022. Wages were rising really quickly. Shortly thereafter, prices started rising really quickly. But it's easy to anchor to those numbers when you remember getting 5, 10, 15% wage increases at your job or when you switch a job. Those just aren't happening right now. The tightness of the labor market means that job growth is low, wage growth is slow, quit rates are slow, and hiring is slow. And that's going to lead to, again, simply in making it harder for people to get large wage gains. But as inflation cools, those gains will still be positive.
What are some other major takeaways or an overall feeling that people should have from this report?
Well, I think people should consider the fact that today's labor market is very different than the one that we've seen in the past few years. We are still shaking off some of the effects of the post-pandemic environment. There was, in some sectors, technology is a good example, a massive amount of overhiring between the years of about 2020 to 2023 or so. Some of that is still working itself out right now. We're in a more normal hiring environment today. A lot of people may not be happy about that, but we are, compared to what we were in the early 2020s. Today's hiring level and rate of hiring in some of these sectors, professional sectors, technology, is much more akin to what we saw pre-pandemic. It's just not the sugar high we had a few years ago. That's dissatisfying, it's frustrating, and it's certainly upsetting for a lot of people. It's not to say that it isn't, but this is a more normal environment, and we're likely to continue to see a relatively slow growth for the labor market, especially when we have low amounts of immigration and big shifts in technology like artificial intelligence, and a lot of uncertainty in the economy around tariffs, around a whole lot of things that are happening out in the news that I'm certainly not an expert on globally.
and domestically. But those uncertainties do affect the stock market and the labor market, and it trickles down to the consumer.
Yeah, and when you speak of things that like affect the stock market, the labor market, for investors, how do you think like the start of 2026 is looking as we look forward?
Well, for investors, they can consider this again a good year to be investing. 2025 turned out far better than I think anybody expected. Obviously, in April, it seemed like the bottom was going to drop out of the market, at least for a little while, but we recovered. The market persisted, and both growth projections for U.S. stocks and net profit margins are very strong. So going into 2026, there's a lot of tailwinds for the market, and it's not just the Mag 7 stocks. We do have a broad base of stocks that were leading the S&P 500. So that's a benefit. I'd also say that anybody who hasn't been diversifying outside of the U.S. stocks, you're missing out. International stocks crushed the U.S. stock market. Gold, precious metals, other alternative investments, they did very well. So if there's a bull market in anything, it's in diversification. Go out there and find various asset classes to be a part of because it's going to benefit you long term.
What things give you pause?
Well, the economy is still on rocky footing. We don't know, again, all of the data, minus disruptions from the last few months. We don't know what inflation is really going to look like. That comes out on Tuesday, so I'm going to be watching that very closely. And the Federal Reserve is going to be having to make a determination about how they conduct monetary policy. The expectation is that they're going to pause at least for 1 to 2 meetings. So cuts may not come again until Q2, given what we know today. Now, other things that are happening, outside of that world, such as the Trump administration encouraging Fannie and Freddie to buy mortgage-backed securities, that's a factor the Fed is going to have to consider. That's a factor investors are going to have to consider. We also have the administration talking about defense companies not issuing dividends, being very downbeat on the pay given to defense companies. Any kind of a tax on Wall Street, even if it is relegated to a certain segment of companies, is something that investors are going to be a little bit wary of. So that kind of uncertainty around, downbeat views towards the stock market or stock market participants, and also changes in the housing market. There was recent news about wanting to bar institutional ownership of single-family homes. That is a bit of a fraught issue. A lot of people disagree about whether that is a good thing, a bad thing, whether it helps renters or hurts buyers. It's complicated, and I'm not an expert on housing policy regionally or nationally, but anything like that is unusual and uncertain, and it makes the market a little bit uneasy.
All right. Well, I'm glad that we saw a lot of green on the screen as you were talking about the stock market today, at least. We'll see where things go from here. Certainly appreciate you joining us back on the show today to give us an update on how things stand in terms of the labor market and beyond.
Have a great day.
All right. You too. Have a great weekend. It's about 3:15, everyone. We're going to take a quick break, just 2 minutes, and we'll be right back. 3:17, everybody, and boy, oh boy. Our next guest says that America is suffering from an attention crisis. Now, when you speak of that, you all see us from this vantage point. As I'm looking to you all, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screens, 5 to 6 screens that I vary throughout the broadcast every day in our 3 hours here. So I'm kind of getting at maybe what's happening to all of us here. We have Dr. Gloria Mark of UC Irvine to join us. She has been tracking for 20 years how America's attention span has been dwindling. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks so much for having me.
So let's walk into the background here. Why did you start to look into this?
Well, I started because of my own problems with having to pay attention. So it was a real struggle. And I had started as an assistant professor, and I was just loaded down with all kinds of tasks, projects, teaching, everything. And I figured, am I the only one, or are other people suffering as well? So that's what led me to embark on this long journey.
A long journey indeed. You say our attention spans have collapsed by 97% in less than 2 decades.
Well, these are attention spans on screens. So we've been tracking this objectively. You know, we're not asking people to just report how long they've paid attention, but we get exact numbers. And when we first started tracking this in 2004, we found that it averaged about 2.5 minutes on a screen, any screen. And by 2012, it was down to 75 seconds on average. And then starting from around 2014 through right before the pandemic, there were multiple measures, and they all averaged about 47 seconds. And these are studies done with, you know, many people who are using their screens in their real life. We're not bringing them into a laboratory.
Mm-hmm.
We're tracking what they're doing in their real environments.
So from an average attention span of 2.5 minutes in 2004 to 2012 dropping to 75 seconds, to 2016 to 2020, now just 47 seconds. Is it because we have so many screens that this is happening, or is it social media? Like, I'm sure there's probably a mixture of things.
It is a mixture. There's, if you look at everything that's changed, you know, over the 20-year period of 2004 to just before the pandemic, what happened? Well, yes, social media came on the scene. Facebook was launched 2003, and then came Twitter at the time, now X, later TikTok, around 2017, and of course the smartphone was launched in 2006, 2007, around that time. But also, so many other things changed, right? E-commerce just grew exponentially. Email, people started using email more and more. And so many services, right, turned to being done online. So our whole digital life has changed. It's moved online. So there are a lot of things going on.
Yeah, and I meant there's good and bad to everything. I mean, clearly we wouldn't even have this show, and we love Chicago Live. I love the opportunity to be able to be a part of this new road for the station. We wouldn't even have it if it weren't for people, you know, looking at multiple screens, people streaming more and things of that nature.
That's right. So, I mean, there's always costs and benefits for everything. And, you know, we can't give up technology at this point, but we can learn how to be more judicious in how we're using technology so it doesn't infringe on our lives. I mean, one of the things that we found in our studies is that attention switching is associated with higher stress. So the faster people are switching their attention, the higher is their stress in their real world environments. And there are a lot of reasons behind it, but it's not always positive for people to be switching attention.
And that is the other side of it for sure. We have a running joke around here with my colleagues. I keep about 480 tabs open on my phone. It totally dwindles the battery life all the time. But yeah, that's a part of it. I mean, I feel like the tabs open on your phone are like tabs in your brain. Things are constantly going. We have so many things that we're invested in when it comes to things online.
That's right. And I love that analogy that you make about the different tabs in our brains. And it's actually not far from what's actually going on, because every time we're switching our attention, we have to bring up information that we need for the next task. So it is like switching tabs. And we have a limited amount of cognitive resources. You can think of it as attentional capacity. And whenever we switch our attention, it's draining that capacity, right? We have to use effort when we're switching like that, and we just have so much effort that we can expend. And so, it's not creating benefits for us when we're switching that fast.
Tell me about some of the other things that this takes away from society over time.
Well, that's I could speak for many hours on that. It's, for one thing, it's taking attention away from what's around us in real life, offline. And we see that there's a rise in loneliness. There's a number of trends that are pretty concerning. And so, we're seeing that people are kind of locked on their screens, as opposed to paying attention to things that they should be paying attention to that could make them happier, such as being with other people, being in nature, going out and exercising without devices. They're reading a book. Reading a book has so many benefits for people. It can, it helps our working memory, it helps our cognition. And yet, instead, people are choosing to pay attention to screens, which isn't necessarily helping their cognition.
No, that's a really, really good point about reading books. I remember early in my career that I had a general manager who would ask you, if you had some issues getting through scripts in your shows, like, when's the last time you read a book? That is good, but it does something different to your brain than when you're just on screens all day. What is the value as time goes on of those who can focus for extended periods of time, those who have long attention spans?
Oh, there's tremendous value. So as I said, people can improve their cognitive capabilities. When you're reading a book, it teaches us how to pay attention, how to focus. We're developing a new habit of being able to pay attention. People learn more. They retain more when they pay attention longer. So there's a psychological idea that's called depth of processing. And what that refers to is when you really engage with something, you're reading something, you're really closely paying attention. We retain it more, right? We learn more from it. So it's about helping us grow, helping our minds grow, helping our selves grow. When we're reading, when we're not just locked on our screens.
What are some other recommendations that you make to people based off of the litany of things that you've researched over the last 20 years when it comes to our dwindling attention span?
Yeah, so it's really important to take breaks. So that's something that people really neglect. And so, taking a break gives us a chance to replenish those resources, right? I was talking about how we have this limited attentional capacity. when we take a break, we get a chance to build that back up. And the best break a person can possibly take is to go out in nature. Nature can really replenish our ability to pay attention. If you can't get out in nature, then get up, move around, but get off the screen, right? You can even have a nice conversation with someone. So taking a break is really important. Another thing people can do is to keep track of goals, right? And when I say goals, I don't just mean task goals. Everyone knows how to write down a task goal, but make emotional goals for the day. So how do you want to feel at the end of the day? I want to feel rewarded and happy and fulfilled. Make that your goal so that you can focus on that as well as your tasks. So that's really important. Another thing that people can do is to practice what's called forethought. And that means imagining yourself at the end of the day. So if you're a person who's tempted to go on social media, you're tempted to scroll, think instead of where you want to be at the end of the day. And I'll tell you where I want to be is I want to be relaxing, I want to be reading, I want to be with my family. I do not want to be working on that deadline until, late into the evening. And believe me, I've done that. And I don't want that to happen. And so forethought is just a great mechanism that can have us pause and reflect and say, okay, social media is not going to help me get to where I want to be at the end of the day.
I think all of those are so valuable. I could talk to you on and on. Thank you so much for making time for us today, even though that put you in front of a screen. But we so appreciate the work that you do, and we can all take a little something from it.
Okay, my pleasure.
All right, take care. Have a great weekend. It's 3:30 now, everyone. I mean, it's hard. It's hard. We have so many different screens. And yes, we're doing this all day. But she's right. Taking a moment to just woosah can go a long way. Let's take 2 minutes to do just that, and we'll be right back. 3:32, and we see e-bikes and e-scooters everywhere. Like, the usage is skyrocketing. They are zooming in and out of very busy areas, and so it's pretty surprising and concerning that, especially when it comes to young people on them. There's a new study that finds most people aren't requiring their kids to put on helmets. We're talking with the senior author of the report and director of Voices of Child Health in Communities, Marie Heffernan. Thank you so much for your time today.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Tell me about how this study came to be.
Yes, well, we have noticed, as you mentioned, the increased use of e-scooters and e-bikes among youth. My colleagues in the emergency department have noticed increased rates of kids coming in with injuries from these vehicles. And so we conducted a survey of parents from all across the state of Illinois to learn a little bit more about their practices with these vehicles.
Do you think that the parents were forthcoming with you?
I think probably mostly. So we surveyed over 1,000 parents from across the state, and they came from urban regions, rural regions, so all across the state in October of 2024. And so it's possible that parents, were I think mostly forthcoming when it came to answering the survey.
Okay. Well, again, this is pretty concerning what the findings ended up being.
Yes. So we asked parents to report on their children's use of what we call motorized recreational vehicles. So this included e-scooters, e-bikes, ATVs or all-terrain vehicles, and snowmobiles. And then we also asked them to report on their children's use of helmets when using vehicles like those. We were particularly interested in their reports of how the kids were using e-bikes and e-scooters because of the increased popularity of those over recent years. And like you said, we found that e-scooters were the most commonly used recreational vehicle by children and adolescents. So 1 in 4 parents, about 24%, said that their children used e-scooters, followed by 13% used ATVs, 9% used e-bikes, and 5% used snowmobiles. But one of the concerning things was that youth helmet use was lowest when using e-scooters. Only 36% of parents said that they always require their children to wear a helmet when they're using an e-scooter. So although e-scooters were the motorized recreational vehicle that were most commonly used by youth, they were also the vehicle that had the lowest rate of helmet use across all the vehicle types that we studied.
Yeah, and when we talk about injuries, they can be very serious.
Yes. The injuries that my colleagues in the emergency department are seeing are really serious. So these are things like head trauma, which is the most dangerous kind of injury that is often happening. This can include concussions, skull fractures, and traumatic brain injuries. We're also seeing facial injuries. This can happen when a child or an adult goes over the handlebars, and that can result in injuries to the jaw, to the nose, and teeth. We're seeing complex fractures, for instance, fractures to the forearm, elbow, and clavicle, and also severe road rash from sliding on asphalt at such high speeds because the electric scooters and e-bikes can go much faster than regular scooters and bicycles.
Yeah. And I was a cyclist for a while and fully enjoyed getting out on the open road and, cycling with friends and all of those things. But you kind of have it always in your head, and that's with a helmet on, just how serious things can be if you have a collision, even with the helmet on.
Yes. I think that's true. And I think one of the things that the American Academy of Pediatrics warns against is the use of e-scooters for children under the age of 16, so below driving age, because those injuries can be so serious and because e-scooters can reach 15 to 25 miles per hour. Some models can even reach 30 to 35 miles per hour. And so the types of injuries when you're going that fast are even more severe than when riding a regular bicycle.
Yeah, really important point there. So what are you hoping comes from a report like this? I mean, other than parents just saying, oh, yeah, we probably should do better.
Yeah, I think the first step, especially because these vehicles and their popularity are relatively new and increasing, The first step is just raising awareness about the types of injuries and the severity of the injuries that can result from accidents involving e-bikes and e-scooters, and then also promoting safe practices for parents and kind of helping them know where to turn if they have questions about this.
Are you hoping that this turns into like legislation in time?
I think that's possible. There are some municipalities in the state of Illinois already who have restrictions on e-scooter usage, for instance. There are a few communities who restrict use for children under the age of 16. I believe Naperville, Orland Park, Glencoe, to name a few. And so I think it's really just kind of figuring out how to communicate with parents and families so that they are aware of the risks in using vehicles like this and can make safe choices for their kids and promote safe usage for their kids.
Yeah. Where do you go from here with what you're researching?
That's a really great question. I think one of the things that I'm thinking about going as a next step is to look at the kinds of ways that we can communicate this safety information, whether it's at a pediatrician's visit, at schools, or via social media, trying to figure out what are the most effective ways to communicate best practices and safety tips to parents and families.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's pretty startling. And yet I think a lot of people, when you look at the mode of transportation, if you will, it seems like, oh, there's nothing to it. But you're right. Whenever a motorized aspect comes into play, it does change the game.
Yes, I think it really does. And so parents have options. They could follow the American Academy of Pediatrics guidelines and restrict use for any kids who are under 16. I think parents can also try to model good safety behavior themselves.
Sure.
They can require helmets, make that sort of a non-negotiable for their children using these kinds of vehicles, and protective clothing. We know that helmets are one of the most effective ways to reduce the risk of serious head injury when using these kinds of vehicles. Other things are staying alert, not texting or using headphones while on an e-scooter or an e-bike, because then you're not as alert to your surroundings. It's also important to ride just one person at a time. That's something that I see in my neighborhood pretty regularly, where I'll see two teens on a scooter together, or even parents and young kids riding on a scooter together. And that can be really dangerous, especially given the high speeds.
Yeah. And your study is among Illinois children riding these e-scooters and e-bikes. Did you look at how we compare to other states?
We did not in this survey look at how we compare to other states. There has been other national work on helmet use for youth across the U.S. And it looks like the usage in Illinois might be slightly lower than at a national level with respect to helmet use on e-scooters. So that's also concerning.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. This is an interesting aspect of study as there's more and more study into e-scooters, as you said, new regulations regarding age requirements and things of that nature. But with the usage skyrocketing comes more scrutiny about how things are being used.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate it. Have a great weekend. It's 3:41, everyone. Let's take a quick break, 2 minutes. We'll be right back. Welcome back. 3:43 right now, and it's time for our final conversation of the week, really, here on Chicago Live. Appreciate everyone for staying with us. And, we had ferocious weather yesterday. Lots of rain, wind, and we even had some flooding that took place throughout our area. So I'm happy that John Murray, the Executive Director of the Metro Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago, is joining me now to talk a little bit more about what we saw, how they dealt with it, and where we go from here with some of the projects that they're working on. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon.
Tell me what goes through you all's minds when we know that the weather is going to be like, or have a turn like it took yesterday.
Yeah, so when we have a wet weather forecast come in, one of the steps that we take is to lower the Chicago area waterway system, so we can provide some additional storage within the waterway system itself. And then, so we do that preemptively before the event comes in. Of course, what was unusual about yesterday is that we had so much rain, and even more than we expected in a winter month, which we typically don't see that. And so then all of the rainwater that we collect goes into a combined sewer system, and we collect that into our TARP reservoirs, and then eventually we pump that back up and treat it before we release it back into the water systems. So our Stickney plant, one of the world's largest with a treatment capacity of over 1 billion gallons, receives the flow that comes from what's called McCook Reservoir, and that reservoir has a 3.5 billion gallon storage capacity, and we filled up 90% of that during this rain event that happened yesterday.
Oh my goodness, 90% of it. Okay, so when we 90%. Fill it up like that so quickly, then what happens?
So we still have capacity available. So what happens is that over the next 2 weeks or so, 10 to 14 days, we'll dewater that and fully treat it before we release it back into the waterway system. What we've seen in the storm yesterday, and we are starting to see a lot more frequently in the summer, is we get this really high volume of rainfall that falls in a really short period of time. And then it enters local collection systems, and then it gets to us. And sometimes it falls so fast that the local collection systems are unable to convey it to us for storage in our TARP system to be treated later.
Talk a little bit more about the TARP system. So this is the Tunnel and Reservoir Plan, which some people just know as Chicago's Deep Tunnel.
That's right. Deep Tunnel, TARP, Tunnel and Reservoir Plan all mean the same thing. And so in the late 60s, early 70s, there were a number of alternatives that were looked at on how to deal with combined sewer overflows, which is when you would have so much rain that the sewer system couldn't handle it, that it would overflow into area waterways and cause pollution to be in the waterways. So there was a plan put together to try to mitigate those effects, and also to help try to prevent basement backups. And that became known as the Tunnel and Reservoir Plan. And work started on that in the early 1970s. And a number of 3 tunnel systems were built. And there's a little Calumet leg that goes to the Thornton Composite Reservoir, which is located on the south side of the city, in the south suburbs. And then we have the mainstream and displaying system that goes to McCook Reservoir, and that flow is eventually all treated at the Stickney plant. And then we have a smaller system up in the Des area, and we have a small reservoir there that has about 450 million gallons of storage there available.
Tell me a little bit about overflow issues as time goes on, and how mitigating those and treating those has changed.
So we've seen, as I mentioned, these much more heavy rainfall events fall in sometimes a very small geographic area in a real short period of time. And so when that happens, those sewer systems that are there may not be able to convey that flow. So the district works on a number of different types of projects to try to help mitigate those impacts. About 10 years ago, we received Stormwater Management Authority from the Illinois State Legislature. And since that time, we've built nearly 300 projects, or 300 projects that are in design or construction have been completed. And a number of those projects are what are called green infrastructure projects. So that could be permeable pavement, that could be rain gardens, a wide variety of ways to try to infiltrate water into the ground to provide additional capacity within the sewer systems. And if we can do that, then there's a little bit more room in those systems. So that's how we try to mitigate those impacts.
You talked about the system being advanced. Who have you seen, like what other cities have you seen maybe try to replicate what we've done here?
So we know that there are other entities that are replicating what we do. We know in Milwaukee, they have a deep tunnel system now also. And there are other places throughout the world that have built similar systems.
Wow. Do they call to consult with you all?
Oh, sure. We've had discussions with different entities over the years to share the knowledge that we've gained through constructing these systems. You know, the deep tunnel, it's 300 feet below ground. And as I mentioned, there's several networks, but they're 30 feet in diameter. It's a pretty massive endeavor. And we do share the knowledge that we learned through that work with other entities.
How do you, what are some misnomers about it?
Misnomers about the deep tunnel system?
Mm-hmm.
There's times when the system could be full and we're doing everything we can, right? We have our plants running at full steam. Our staff is working 24 hours. And if we get a number of rainfall events back to back, we could have the tunnel system full. And then that could cause some combined sewer overflows into the waterways. There's sometimes discussion about when we can reverse into Lake Michigan, which we try to avoid. But it really, you can only do that based on what the water elevations are. So if the water elevation in the area waterways are lower than the lake, we can't reverse. And sometimes people think we should be reversing, but we just physically can't because the water level in the lake is higher.
And it really gets people going, for sure.
Sure.
Tell me a little bit more about, how you all try to educate people about what you all do and maybe where things go from here.
So we have so much information available on our website. And our website is www.mwrd.org. And there's links to different things like how sewers work. There's links to our stormwater management program, and where it describes all the different projects that we have going on. And so, as we go, we continue to look for partnerships with local agencies to build more projects to help address this issue, and more green infrastructure projects to help absorb water rather than letting it getting into the sewer system. So we just keep going. We just keep partnering on projects and moving forward. And the projects could range anywhere from a permeable pavement alley to a large scale reservoir. So we have a wide variety of projects and a wide variety of toolboxes. The other thing we try to do is educate the public that when there is a rain event, try to use less water. Maybe delay taking a shower, maybe hold off on a load of laundry, because the idea would be, every drop we can keep out of that sewer system in those critical times could help us, all deal with the storm events better.
Yeah, I've read that the deep tunnel is among the world's most ambitious and expensive efforts to manage urban flooding and water pollution. Why Chicago?
Well, again, there were people with great vision at the Water Reclamation District, working with the Army Corps of Engineers and a variety of partners, 50 years ago to embark on this journey to build this system. And it's just a credit to being, thinking ahead and trying to get ahead of it and that's why it's here.
All right. I have to ask you, do you ever go down there?
I've been down there. The tunnel system is all live now, so we don't go down there anymore. But I have been down there.
All right. A whole new set of questions now. So tell us about it. What did it look like? What can we know from your perspective?
Well, we have some great pictures online, right? And so, you think of a 30-foot diameter tunnel, and I'm 6 feet tall, right? And then you look up and you just see this huge tunnel. And so what we would do to make those is we use tunnel boring machines. And so those tunnel boring machines would go through, and it would leave kind of a rough facade, it looked rough, right? And so then we would go in and use concrete to smooth it out, so it would last longer, right? So when you stand there and you look at that, and you could just imagine what that would look like. It's pretty amazing. And also with the reservoirs, if you're driving over I-80 heading into Indiana and you look to your left, you would see the Thornton Composite Reservoir, and that is also 300 feet deep. And when you go down to the bottom of there, when it's empty, and you look up, it really is an amazing viewpoint.
Did you have to wear like a certain suit or something like that? Some protective gear or anything?
So when staff works in those types of situations, they wear vests so they could be seen. The high illuminating, like yellow vests. They're wearing hard hats, whatever protective gear to be safe when they're doing that kind of work.
What was the smell like?
It's as far as like I think the smell is what you might imagine it might be, right? So you have water that's largely diluted by stormwater that's fallen when we fill those reservoirs, and then you have some combined sewage in there. So I would say that it's what you might imagine.
I don't know if I can imagine it. I'm not sure if I can imagine it, John. Thank you so much for your time, though. We really appreciate it. You have seen a side of the city that few of us will see from that type of first-person perspective. So we had to pick your brain.
Oh, no problem. And I'd really encourage your viewers to check out our website. There's all kinds of great pictures and great information there to learn about the important mission that this agency has.
All right. Thank you so much. Take care. Have a great weekend.
You too. Take care. Thank you.
2 minutes. We'll be right back to close out the show. 3:58, I put back on the sparkles because the last time I wore this jacket, the Bears won. And we're certainly hoping we come back on another Victory Monday next week. Fingers crossed, prayers up. Let's go. We're going to bear down this weekend. We'll see you back here for another day of Chicago Live on Monday from 1 to 4.
Live from Chicago, this is Fox 32 News at 4.